Hello, everyone. Let's give it a minute or two as our friends jump online. Hello to Char Leslie and Vivian and Manal and Tinuri. Good morning, good day, good evening, wherever you may be. We're just going to wait another minute or so for people to get online. It may be very early and they may be having their cup of tea or coffee, using the restroom, or getting settled in. So I see people jumping on. You can see the little number of people that are logging on. So we'll just give it another minute or so. In the meantime, just make sure that you find a comfortable seat. We'll do a short little 5-10 minute kind of meditation just to calm the mind and brighten the mind so we can listen to the Dhamma. So hello to John, and Gurgul said Griyo or Upasika Metika. So as we wait for more people to log on, as I see is happening, like Pamela, just get comfortable, find a comfortable seat. We're going to do a very short meditation just to calm our minds, still our minds, and clear our minds, brighten the mind, so we can listen to the Dhamma. Okay, everyone, hello and welcome to Empty Cloud Buddhist Insights. I am Sanathavihari Bhikkhu, and I'll be giving a Dhamma talk and sharing some suttas with you. And we're going to start off by just doing a short little meditation for, 5-10 minutes, something like that. Just very short meditation before we listen to the Dhamma. So just get comfortable, get in a comfortable seated position, and make sure that your back is straight. So sitting comfortably with a straight back. And besides the sound of my voice, you can begin to withdraw your attention from the external environment. So withdrawing your attention from seeing, smelling and tasting and touching and hearing except for my voice. And we begin to withdraw our attention and place it inside. Place it on the body. The first foundation or first basis for observation, Kaya Anupasana. So let's get in touch with the body. Let's attune to the body. Be mindful of the body, which means the tactile sensations, right? The physicality, the solidity of this bodily experience, which for many of us can be easily felt in the breath, the breathing sensations, or your body in a seated posture. You can feel the weight of your body on your cushion and on your legs. You can feel the solidity of your spine as it holds up your torso and your head and your neck. And let's just get in touch with the body for a little bit. Experiencing the body, feeling the body, feeling the weight, the solidity, the tactile sensations of the body as we breathe in, as we breathe out. Maybe you can feel the cool air or warm air touching your face and your hands. You can feel the weight of your body on your cushion, the heaviness. Maybe you can feel your bones on the cushion. You can feel your legs and your feet, the weight of your body. Maybe you can feel the weight of your arms and hands as they rest on your lap, or your hands touching each other as you have them in this kind of meditation pose. Feeling the in-breath and the out-breath. Aware of the entire body from head to toes and front and back. Becoming aware of this bodily experience. Feeling the solidness, the solidity of the body. The solidity in the skull, the teeth, the spine, the rib cage, the bones in the arms and fingers, and hip bones, pelvic bones, tailbone, legs, knees, feet and toes, nails, hair, the skin that wraps this body. Aware of the in and out breath. Breathing in and breathing out. Notice your posture. Are you leaning back too much, or are you slouching forward a little too much? Aware of your breathing. Is your breathing constricted, or is it nice and open? Are you breathing fast or slow? Is the body comfortable or uncomfortable? Is there any tension in the body? And is there any comfort, any release in the body, any letting go? Aware of the entire body, focusing on the bodily sensations, the tactile sensations, the solidity of the body. Experiencing the entire body. And finding stillness, stillness of body. Try to find that stillness, becoming imperturbable, unshaken, peaceful, tranquil, harmonious. Gently and slowly, you can begin to become aware of the world around you, expanding your awareness to include your hearing and tasting and smelling and seeing. Slowly opening your eyes and looking around and becoming aware of your environment. So good morning to everyone again, to Richard and Luisa, who just joined us during the meditation. Okay. So before we start, I'd like to pay my respects to the Buddha. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa. Oh, some more people like Lee and Jayanta and Karuna. Thank you for joining us this Wednesday morning, hump day, right? In the middle of the work week. You're almost there, everyone, to the weekend. So today I wanted to share a sutta and some verses from the Dhammapada, which talk about this, the view of the world according to the teachings of the Buddha. It's a sort of Buddhist cosmology, or we can say metaphysics, or just a more experiential way of understanding the teachings of the Buddha. You know, in many occasions, in many different contexts, we find the Buddha saying that we should avoid extremes, right? The two extremes, the extremes of sensual pleasure and self-mortification, that extremes of everything exists and nothing exists. And we also have our own extremes in our Western kind of philosophical view of idealism, right? Everything is completely subjective. I create the world, literally, and other beings are just figments of my imagination. Or there can be, as Descartes said, a demon that is tricking me. Or we can all be a brain in a vat, right? Kind of like in the Matrix. Or in this complete objective, materialistic world, where the subjective experience is just an illusion. There isn't really a subjective experience. There really isn't any beings. There's no beings. There's no karma, right? There is no previous, present, or future lives. So I'd like to share with you some of the things that the Buddha had to say about how we view the world, right? And when we talk about the world, we're just talking about reality, actually. What is the Buddhist view according to the teachings of the Buddha here, like the Dhamma Vinaya, right? Or the Buddhism, or whatever we want to call it, Pali Suttas, Agamas, and things like that. What is this view of the world? Because remember, we have to avoid these dichotomies, this dualistic thinking. We always fall into dichotomies, right? If I say, oh, what's the opposite of cat? You might say dog. But they're not opposites. They're completely different things, right? They're not true opposites. So we have these kind of false dichotomies that we create in our mind, and it's really to simplify. You know, if we were thinking all day and analyzing everything, it would be a huge toll, and we'd be exhausted. I mean, there's so many psychological studies that show how making choices, right, investigating, the more choices we make, the more tired we get and the worse we get at making choices. So they say it's best in the morning to already have like everything ready that you're going to do, right? So you already have like prep meals, your clothes are already ready. You don't have to worry about what you're going to wear. You already have your daily routine, and that makes your life a lot easier. So that's all to say is that we like to take shortcuts. And when we take shortcuts, we make a lot of inferences, assumptions, and false dichotomies in our worldview that have serious consequences. Us and them, right? The righteous, holy people and the intrinsically evil, malicious others, and things like that. Because we're just intellectually lazy. Um, so I want to share with you now some teachings of the Buddha, so we can kind of get away from this cognitive, intellectual laziness and begin to see the world as it is, right? So first, I would like to share with you uh, this beautiful, probably one of my top three favorite verses from the Dhammapada. Um, it's in the Jaravaga, which is the chapter on old age. Dhammapada verses 153 and 154, if you want to follow along. So it goes like this. Through many a birth in samsara, have I wandered in vain, seeking the builder of this house. Repeated birth is indeed suffering. Oh, house builder, you are seen. You will not build in this house again, for your rafters are broken and your ridge pole shattered. My mind has reached the unconditioned. I have attained the destruction of craving. Such a beautiful verses, and in Pali, it's even more amazing because it all actually rhymes. And unlike English, in Pali, like many Indian languages, everything ends in a vowel, right? So it's very easy to rhyme things. And in English and Germanic language, it's a little bit more difficult with like the strong consonants at the end to make things rhyme. But anyways, so now I'd like to share with you another other sayings of the Buddha, and this is from the Anguttara Nikaya, the Book of Fours. It's called with Rohitassa Sutta. If you want to kind of look it up while I go through it, and then after I read that, I'll go into my talk. But I just want to share some words of the Buddha first before I begin to elaborate on it. Yeah, so we're in the Anguttara Nikaya Book of Fours, Sutta 45, Rohitassa Sutta. And it's just going to flesh out a little bit more of the Dhammapada verses that I just shared with you. At one time, the Buddha was staying near Savatthi in Jeta's Grove, Anathapindika's monastery. Then late at night, the glorious god Rohitassa, the Deva, lighting up the entire Jeta Grove, went up to the Buddha, bowed, stood to one side, and said to him, "Sir, is it possible to know or see or reach the end of the world by traveling to a place where there is no being born, growing old, dying, passing away, or being reborn?" Right? So there's this Deva, right, who is just shining everywhere, lighting up the entire night. Comes down to the Buddha and asks him, right, Bhante, Venerable Sir, uh, is there a way to escape reality, right? Is there a way to escape this life? Is there a way to escape this world? Is there a way to escape dukkha, actually, right? No being born, growing old, dying, passing away, being reborn. This is dukkha, right? When we look at like the first noble truth, birth, sickness, old age, and death, right? Also being to be reborn, as we just heard in the previous Dhammapada verses, right? To be born again and again is suffering. So this Deva is asking the Buddha, is there a way to escape suffering, which means to escape samsara. And samsara means reality, the way things are, the world, the universe, whatever we want to call it, this life. Is there a way to get out of here? Reverend, I say it is not possible. So this is the Buddha saying, to know or see or reach the end of the world by traveling to a place where there is no being born, growing old, dying, passing away, or being reborn. Right? So there's nowhere you can go. There's nowhere you can go in reality, in this world, in the universe. There's no place in this life, time in this life, where you can escape any of these. And then the Deva, Rohitassa, says, it is incredible, sir. It is amazing how well this was said by the Buddha. So now Rohitassa is going to give us his origin story. Once upon a time, I was a seer called Rohitassa, son of Boja. I was a skywalker with psychic powers. I was as fast as a light arrow, easily shot across the shadow of a palm tree by a well-trained expert archer with a straight bow. My stride was such that it could span from Eastern Ocean to the Western Ocean. Having such speed and stride, this wish came to me. So here it's just kind of saying how fast he was, right? We can say like a flash of light or in an instant, right? This is just a way of him saying that he was really, really fast. Then the Deva continued, Rohitassa said, I will reach the end of the world by traveling. So with this fast speed, he thought he was going to go out into the universe and reach the end of samsara, at the end of the universe. And he says, I travel for a whole lifespan of 100 years, pausing only to eat and drink, go to the toilet, and sleep to dispel weariness. And I passed away along the way, never reaching the end of the world. Right? So this guy had this Deva, when he was a human, when he was like this rishi or sadhu, he had these psychic powers, right? He was a skywalker. He could fly and going at an incredible speed, right? So fast at the blink of an eye. He traveled for 100 years, and throughout the world, throughout the universe, and he never found an end to this world. It is incredible, sir. It is amazing how well this was said by the Buddha. So it goes on now. Now the Buddha says, Reverend, I say it's not impossible. It is not possible to know or see or reach the end of the world by traveling to a place where there is no being born, growing old, dying, passing away, or being reborn. Right? So there's nowhere in this universe where you can run away from dukkha. There's no place to go. And it's funny how we try to do this, right? That's what vacations are about. We try to get away from our problems, right? Or even during the day, we go somewhere and we think, well, if I could go to a nightclub, if I could go to the club, I'll be free of dukkha. Or if I could go to Cabo or Hawaii or some other exotic location, right? I could be free of this dukkha. If I was in Dubai, I'll be free of dukkha. But there's nowhere you can go. There's no place. Even in space, on other planets, there is still sickness, old age, and death, and rebirth. There's nowhere to go. And, in my own experience with monasticism, in Buddhism, many people, right, think, well, if I can only go to the retreat center, if I could only go to the monastery, if I could only be a yogi, if I could only be a monk, a monastic, I'll be free of all my suffering. But guess what? Everywhere you go, you take you with you, and the world goes with you. So all the drama you had, all your resentment, all your anger, all your sadness, all your pain, doesn't matter if you come here to Empty Cloud or you go to the Vatican or Mecca, you take all your drama with you and you take your body with you and all its pains and aches and suffering, there's nowhere you can go. Then the Buddha continues, but I also say, right? But I also say, there is no making an end of dukkha, of suffering, without reaching the end of the world, right? So the Buddha said there's nowhere you can travel in samsara where you'll be free from dukkha, from suffering. But, right, you cannot be free from suffering until you find the end of the world. So it seems like we're in this paradox, right? But the Buddha's going to clear up this seeming paradox, because it's not a true paradox. The Buddha says, for it is in this fathom-long carcass, like the practice we're doing right now, right? Awareness of the body. For it is in this fathom-long body, with its perceptions and conceptions, or sensations and mind, or however you want to classify it. In this translation, it says perception and mind, that I describe the world, its origin, its cessation, and the practice that leads to its cessation, right? In this body, with its perceptions and conceptions, I proclaim the world, its origin, its cessation, and the path leading to its cessation. The end of the world can never be reached by traveling. But without reaching the end of the world, there is no release from dukkha. So a clever person understands the world, has completed the spiritual journey, and gone to the end of the world. A peaceful one, knowing the end of the world, does not long for this world or the next. So we think that we can escape our problems, right? By going to some other place, some time in the future, some future utopia where everything's perfect, that we can escape it by going to some heaven where everything's going to be perfect, right? And there is no pain and suffering. But there's nowhere you can go. There is no heaven, no dimension, no realm, no planet, no vacation that you can take that will free you from the instability of conditioned phenomena that are subject to decay, to coming apart. The impersonality, right? That there's nothing to hold on to. And trying to hold on to these ephemeral, constructed, conditioned phenomena only sets us up for more failure. The more we try to survive, the more we seek security, the deeper our pain is. When we come face to face, when we're confronted by reality, and we see that all this investment that we did, right? All our hopes come crashing down. So we can't escape, right? There's nowhere to go. The only thing you can do is go inside, right? Perception and conceptions is where the world arises and ceases. Yatha bhuta, arising and ceasing, right? Seeing things as they are. So we think that freedom from suffering is somewhere out there in the world or some future time. But the only end of suffering is inside. Insight, right? Insight, or sati upatana, we have to practice. Upatana, right? Keeping near, placing in oneself the attention, right? That's why we practice satipatthana. Instead of looking for refuge somewhere out there in the world, we find refuge in experiencing reality for what it is by looking at the different aspects of our reality, the physicality of the body, the feeling tone of the body, Vedana, the different states of mind, Chitta, and the different phenomenal experiences, Dhamma. And through seeing this impersonal process, right, by being able to see the five constituents of personality, the pacha upadana kanda. Only by seeing these things are we able to escape reality. So by breaking down reality, right? By breaking down reality to its different components, whether it's the panchakanda or whether it's the six elements or paticca samuppada, any way you want to, the six senses and all their different feeling tones, whichever way you want to analyze it, is only through that process of investigation that we're able to be free from sickness, old age, death, and rebirth. So it's kind of funny that we always are taught that, or we feel like our happiness or our freedom is based on external conditions or some god or some universal mystic force or some special person is the one who's going to give us our freedom from suffering, right? If I could only find that beautiful, lovely person, or if God would only save me. But if we can find the technology to create some sort of utopia, then I would be free from my suffering. But it's quite the contrary. Instead of looking towards some other place or looking towards some other being or some other object or some other time, we're invited to see things as they arise and cease. As things come together and fall apart, see the conditionality of things. And when we begin to see the conditionality of things, how things are conditioned, we gain insight into the unconditioned. Emptiness, sunyata, anatta, impersonality, non-self. And when everything is depersonalized, not identified with, we don't cling, we don't attach. There is no thirst, no craving, no desire. Then we have reached the end of the world. We have penetrated reality. And by doing that, we are free from this perpetual cycle of reconditioning from moment to moment, from life to life, from world to world. And we see the house builder. I see it. I see this house builder. I see what is moving, continuing the suffering, which is the process of personalization, personalizing everything. Me, myself, mine, I. This is mine. This is part of me. This is myself. I am in that. So to be free from the world, you have to let go of the world. Letting go of the world is to be free from the world. Letting go of samsara is to be free of samsara. Letting go of self is the way to be free from all pain. Sokka parideva dukkha domanassa upayasa, and all the bad things, right? Suffering, pain, lamentation, sorrow, all the bad things. This is the one truth. There's another sutta called Chula Viyuha Sutta, where the Buddha says there is only one truth, not two. Although many people dispute and argue in the world, they do this because they make inferences. As I was saying earlier in the beginning of this talk, right? We're intellectually lazy, cognitively lazy. And instead of doing the work to penetrate reality in each moment and try to see things clearly, we do shortcuts based on past experiences. And based on past experiences, we make an inference. We come to a conclusion. I had this experience in the past. I'm going to use these parameters, right? This model, and I'm going to project it onto this present moment. And then I'll come to a conclusion based on past experiences. And I'll keep doing that, But each moment is contingent, right? Each moment is unique. Each moment is different. And by presupposing, right, by assuming, we set ourselves up for failure because uh, our projection, our assumption, our inference um, may not match up to the reality. Although in the moment it may seem like, maybe most conditions are being fulfilled that would make our assumption, our inference uh, legitimate. Turns out not to be. Because reality is dynamic. Reality is so dynamic and always changing. And we can't ever say that, one moment is exactly the same as the next. And when we try to do that with people or with places or with events or relationships, we just bring pain and suffering. So we have to penetrate. We have to see things clearly in every moment to be free from suffering. See reality all the moment. In every moment. Okay. So now I'd like to leave some time for questions, and I think I saw some nice comments here already in the chat. Let's see. Greetings. Hello to Isabel and to Spoke and to Sood and to Edward and to Rocky and to Frank and Chandra and Bhumika and Iuniono MPM. The truth is in us all. Yes. The truth is just reality as such. Right? It's not somewhere else. It's not hidden in an Ark of the Covenant. Right? It's not in another world. The truth is experience itself. And you don't have to go anywhere. And you don't need anyone's permission. Niranjan says, Venerable Bhikkhu, I am from Nepal, Buddha's birthplace. Hello. So, dear Bhante, how does morality sila help letting go of the world? Well, there's two ways that we can go about living our lives, right? One is in which we're in harmony with reality, harmony with the world, harmony with society, in harmony with ourselves. And the other one is one of conflict, disharmony, right? Something that goes against reality, something that goes against the way things are in the world, something that goes against other beings and against myself. So what is sila, right? What is sila? Sila is a way to be in accordance with reality, to be in harmony with reality, not to be in conflict with reality, not to be in conflict with the world, not to be in conflict with others, not to be in conflict with oneself. Right? All suffering arises from conflict. Conflict with yourself. You have certain ideas about yourself and you don't meet them, and then you hate yourself and you berate yourself, right? Conflict with others. Oh, that brings so much pain, right? People defame you, people insult you, people abuse you, people take advantage of you. Conflict with reality. I want to live forever. I never want to get sick, right? I want to be always young and beautiful. I want things always to be my way. I want my house always to be a certain way. But things fall apart. Your view of the world is in conflict with reality. So sila is just a way to behave in accordance with reality, to avoid conflict with reality, to avoid suffering for oneself and for others. That's why it's samma vacca, samma kamanta, samma ajiva. Samma means wholesome, or harmonious. Those are two words that we can use for samma, harmonious and wholesome. So it's really just to be to live in such a way that allows us to be in accordance with reality, to live a realistic lifestyle, and to have realistic behavior. And by being in harmony with reality, we're able to see things clearly and let go of things, right? So sila protects us protects us from imposing our will on the world, right? I want this, and because I want this, then I can kill, I can steal, I can lie, I can sexually abuse people and myself, and I can do all these bad things. That's just a very strong, like mana, like, right, like pride or egocentricity, right? So sila helps us dissolve our self-centeredness, our ego-centeredness, and our impulse to want things our way and to do anything to get things our way, right? So to practice sila, to be in harmony with the world, is to be able to let go of your impulses, to practice restraint, right? And to practice, stop not thinking about yourself and thinking about others, right? To be selfless, right? I will not harm others. That's a very selfless thought, right? Thinking about others' well-being. So there's so many ways that sila helps us to let go. So many ways. Frank says, "Good morning, Bhante. Today resonated with me very much. I have a constant feeling of wanting to run away, to relocate." We all do. We all do. That's why we watch movies. Movies are a way to take us away. Songs take us away from our reality. Reading books takes us away from our reality. Going on vacation, everything, because this world is suffering. There is so much dukkha. It is completely legitimate for anyone to want to run away. But we also have to realize that there's nowhere to go. We can't run away. There is no refuge out there in the world in a person and an object. So I completely validate your feeling of wanting to run away. It's completely normal and it's legitimate, but there's nowhere to go. that's the that's the truth, right? So what can we do? We have to turn inside. We have to turn inside. And this doesn't mean that we kind of don't pay attention to the way things are going around us, right? Because that's why we have the threefold behavioral trainings, right? Good speech, good action, and livelihood. And we have the practice of charity. So it's not a completely self-centered practice where it's all just in your mind, psychologized, but there's a deep social dimension to it, as we were talking about earlier with sila, right? But we have to remember that it is only by seeing reality as it is, whether both the subjective and objective parts of reality, both of these perspectives have to be seen as they really are, which conditioned. They're unstable and therefore unsatisfactory, not under our control or the control of others. You know, we like to blame world leaders and all these powerful people, but they're just as incapable and ignorant and delusional as all of us. I mean, what do you expect from them? You know, they're just like us, and that's why they make all those mistakes. It's just that when they make a mistake, it's a lot more impactful, right? They have more power, so their ignorance leads to more suffering than our own ignorance. You know, you can't put your hopes on other people either. Let's see. I think I missed one right now. Iuniono MPM. Thank you for the talk. It was very inspirational. It reminds me that Rene Descartes quoted, "I think, therefore I am." Got it wrong. It thinks, therefore I am, is what is really happening. But here we say there is thinking, there is feeling, right? There is perceiving, there is constructing, right? And these things, but no I, right? So we have to avoid the I made world, right? Idealism is also an extreme. So we can't say that I make the world. The world just arises, you know, and the subjective experience is one part of it, and the objective experience is another part of it. But they're interdependent, right? The subjective and the objective, but they are both based on the foundation of experience, which is impersonal, anatta. Reality is impersonal, free of an I, an absolute I, and an absolute other or objects or material. But yeah, it's very close. It's very close. Hai Ang Ewe, practicing compassion without wisdom may cause more suffering. Can we be calmed? Do you agree? Yeah, so true compassion, as seen in Buddhism, comes from a place of uh, rejoicing, appreciation, tranquility, uh, goodwill, right? So, if at any time compassion hurts you, right, or is to your detriment or to the detriment of others, then it's not compassion. It's something else, right? Um, it might be something like pema. So pema is like love, I guess, like a sort of love that brings suffering, right? So when the Buddha talks about relationships, like people who care about their loved ones and their wife and children and other people that are important to them, he uses the word pema. He uses piato, pemato. There's a series in the Dhammapada of like all these different words that the Buddha uses that are similar to like metta and karuna, but they're not. They're kind of like pseudo ones or worldly viharas. Instead of Brahma viharas, they're like loka viharas, because they're based on attachment and they're based on sensuality and based on me, myself, and I, and those bring a lot of suffering, right? So we can talk about like different types of compassion. One kind of compassion is kind of like a sentimentality, where it's just like that reaction of pain that you feel when you see another person in pain, right? And then there is the other compassion, which is the wanting to do something, right? Like wanting to do something, but then maybe things don't turn out that way. So that brings pain also. So the first two have pain. One is just feeling the other person's pain. It's like a visceral feeling. The other one is like wanting to do something, but feeling incapable of doing something, right? Or like you have no power to change it. So you feel frustration and pain. And the other one is the wish that the person to be free from that suffering, or seeing the potential in that person to be free from their suffering, right? Because we know everything changes, so that suffering is not permanent; it is impermanent. Or knowing that this person at some future time, their good wholesome karma can arise. So all beings have created wholesome karma at some point in their life, and seeing at least at some future point that wholesome karma will arise and that person will be free from that suffering, right? So that's really where like the Buddhist compassion comes from, right? Being able to see that person being free from their suffering, and that is vital and fundamental and critical to the Buddhist worldview. Without that, you don't really have Buddhism. You don't have the Dhamma, because the Four Noble Truths is based on this, right? There is suffering, there is the cause of suffering, and there's freedom from suffering, right? So right in the third noble truth of Nirodha, cessation, nirvana, we have compassion, right? There is suffering, and people can be free from it. Oh, wow, that's amazing. That's the good news. We can all be free from our suffering. So without that compassionate view that people can be free from their suffering, there is no Dhamma, there is no Buddhism, there is no holy life. It is that is the compassion that we see, that we can escape samsara, that we can escape suffering, right? Because all things that are conditioned fall apart. This situation will come apart, right? Everything's unstable. Everything's always changing. Anicca, constant flux of things. So compassion is completely, fundamentally tied in with nirvana and with emptiness, right? So wisdom and compassion, as you said, they go together. So by understanding the Four Noble Truths, you're able to see the Dharmic perspective or the Buddhist perspective of compassion, that, hey, every single being can be free from suffering, from dukkha, by understanding the nature of dukkha, its origin, and eliminating it, right? And through the cultivating of the path, the Noble Eightfold Path. right? So also that Noble Eightfold Path is part of compassion too. It's not sentimentality, right? Or it really has nothing to do with emotions or with physical feeling. It's more about seeing reality. And then the truth is that all things are impermanent. And because they're impermanent, that person will not suffer forever and they'll be free from it. And then we just hope that it's sooner than later, right? We hope that it's sooner than later. And we're moved to, uh, to it, whatever degree we can, to facilitate that process for the other person without imposing our own will because we feel uncomfortable. I don't like that you're suffering because it hurts me. So in order to get rid of my pain, I'm going to get rid of your pain. We have to be very careful. That's like a pseudo compassion also, right? That's not what we're doing. We try to facilitate the other person to have the wisdom to see for themselves how they can be free from suffering, and not imposing it on them like some doctrinal view or imposing our own will because we can't tolerate their pain, right? So that's another tricky part of compassion, where we either commiserate with them, right? We get upset with them, we get angry with them, we get sad with them, we commiserate with them, or we fall into hopelessness because we can't control the situation, or we impose our own will on others because we can't handle experiencing that suffering, which is probably the most egocentric one of them all, out of all the three ones that I just explained. All right, let's continue. Dear Bhante, is the Buddha hinting towards practicing of the Noble Eightfold Path here when he says we can only end the world in this carcass, etc.? So what the Buddha is saying is that, this experience is the world, right? This experience, what we call Rupa, Vedana, Sanya, Sankara, Vijnana, right? This Panchakanda is the world. That's what he's hinting at, right? And it's only through understanding the Panchakanda, and by understanding the Panchakanda, we're able to remove the tanha towards the Panchakanda, the craving, which removes the upadana, right? Pancha upadana kanda, in brief, is the source of all our suffering. It's what the Buddha said in the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta, the first teaching that he gave to his 5 ascetic friends, right? And Anya Kondanya became Anya Kondanya, the awakened one. The Kondanya who understands, who sees. So it is only through being able to depersonalize, right? Not identify with the 5 khandas, that we're able to be free from suffering. So that's what here he means by in this. It says, in this fathom-long body or carcass with its perceptions and conceptions, right? So here the Buddha's talk right there. He's talking about the Panchakanda. So bringing it back to the first discourse, the Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. So it's really for us to go directly to the source of our suffering, for us to be able to investigate the Panchakanda, the 5 aggregates. And this will be the final question for today by Chandra. Thank you very much for explaining the suffering and uncertainty of samsara. Oh, thank you for joining us. And on that note, I'd like to thank everyone here: Sud, Frank, Jayanta, and who was all here? Frank, Niranja, Bhumika, Rocky, Spoke, Isabel, Karuna, Lee, Luciana, Richard, Pamela, Gurgel, John, Tinudi, Manal, Vivian, Charles, and anyone else who's out there. There's like 25 of you out there. Thank you for joining us. Without you, this would be a very lonely stream, and we'd probably stop streaming if you didn't show up. Without you, none of this is possible. You have created the causes and conditions for this stream, for Empty Cloud, for all the monastics here. You have created the causes and conditions for yourself, right? To be free from suffering. You have created your own happiness, on just one condition in the many conditions that have come about bringing your own happiness. But you woke up today in the morning, you decided to log on. You have decided to support and continue supporting Empty Cloud, Buddhist Insights, and supporting Ayasoma and Bhante Sudaso and all the monastics here and the Mahasangha throughout the entire world, in this life and in previous lives, and most likely in future lives. So give yourselves a pat on the back. You're doing such a great job creating such good karma, also creating such good wholesome states of mind. Um, and all of you are the usual suspects. You keep showing up, so you have this mental inclination towards the Dhamma and towards creating good causes and conditions. And it's just a matter of time before you reach Nibbana. It may not be tomorrow. It may not be the next week or next month or next year or even the next life. You know, but very much like a Sotapanna who's definitely going to hit the target, right? At some point, maximum of 7 human lives. Also, you're already on that path, right? You're already on that path. So rejoice in all your good actions. Rejoice that you're on the right track towards awakening and that you have such beautiful Kalyana Mitas here joining you online. Kalyana Mitas on the monastic side and on the lay side. Yeah, we're all so rich. We're all very spiritually rich. And you should know that today when you go out there in the world, whatever problems you have, whatever things you seem that you're lacking, at least you're rich in Dhamma, right? You're rich in wholesomeness. We can look at the negative, but that's like looking behind. That's like looking ahead and seeing how far we still have to go to reach Nibbana. You can become depressed and hopeless because it's such a far way to Nibbana, right? So instead of looking at the negative side, we can look at the positive side and be like, wow, look at this path that I crossed. I'm free from the Avicii hell. I'm free from the lower hells. I'm free from the animal realm and the Preta realm. Like, I had to come out of all that suffering, all those hells, in order to be here as a human being, to be born in a place where I have food and I have shelter and I have good parents and I can listen to the Dhamma and I'm practicing the Dhamma. Like, this is better than heaven, actually. This is way better than heaven because you have the potential to wake up in this very life, right? So you're all very rich, no matter what you're lacking. Focus on all the work that you've already done in the past to bring you to this moment and how rich you are and how wealthy you are, how blessed you are to have all your friends, your life, your family, the monk, the monastics, the Dhamma, and Empty Cloud. So thank you so much for joining us and hope to see you. I'll be doing monk chat on Friday evening with Aya. So until then, friends, may you be well, happy, comfortable, and peaceful. Have a good morning, good day, good evening, good night, wherever you may be. Sukhi Hotu.